definitely going to be, this is definitely a dark version of this video, I guess. I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. It's pretty late out while I'm walking to the store in between periods, currently on the boat. I'm just going to say this definitely confirms my opinion that the Bruins need to sell at the trade deadline. It's just absolutely embarrassing, the performance I'm seeing out here by the Bruins. It's a joke. You're losing to the Islanders, you're out shooting them, and you still can't win a game. It's frustrating to watch. They waived Wallstrom. They just are not a very good team this season. And I think you're kind of at the point. I mean, I know I'm at the point as a Bruins fan. It is time to sell. It is time to sell this team up the river and get as many assets as you possibly can for the future. That's kind of where I think the Bruins should go when it comes down to it. I don't think there is a good enough product on the ice, even if they do somehow scramble to make the playoffs. And watching this game right now with the Islanders, sure, they're out shooting. Sure, there's, some, I guess, some good, parts you can put in there, but they just can't bear the puck. If Pasternak's not involved, Morgan Geeky's not involved, generally this team is not scoring. What's going on, everybody? I appreciate if you drop a like if you're watching, helps the channel. But this is, I'm over it. I think it's time for the Bruins to sell at the deadline. I think Hampus Lindholm, he was the one thing as a fan that you could kind of hang your hat on. Like, okay, the defense will get better. There's talent coming in the pipeline. Yeah, Hampus doesn't make this team a friggin' contender, but at least the product will get better. And now he's out for the season. Charlie McAvoy's out. And mind you, everybody wants to, pile on the young kid Lorai, but I think he shows you promise. He's a young defenseman who shouldn't be getting these minutes he is. Silver lining here, maybe he develops, but this team's not good. This team's not good. DC, listen, as a Bruins fan, it would give me more joy to see the Bruins knock out the Toronto Maple Leafs. But the team's just a not good team. It's rough to watch. And you know what? I have been a Jeremy Swayman defender. What's going on? Yeah. Okay, I guess I'm fat. That's why I'm walking, trying to lose weight while I go to the store. Okay. But you try to recover from massive hip surgery where you couldn't walk for 2 years and you come back to me. Anyways, I think the problem is, like, Jeremy Swayman, he does not look good. He looks like a shell of himself. And, while you could look at the Romanov comes out of the box, he scores. And there was a Palmieri scored the other one. Are they like horrible goals to let in? No. But as a guy that you're paying that amount of money, a guy you got rid of Olmark, a Vezina winner, to bring in to steal you to let go so you could make him and pay him that money, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that that's the product you're getting from Swayman. It's just not good enough. It's not good enough from what you're seeing on the ice. You need a little bit more from Swayman. Not a little more, a lot more. And, if I'm the Bruins, sorry if it gets dark here. There's no street lights on this side while I had to cross over for the sidewalk. I think, if I'm the Bruins, like, Swayman has completely underwhelmed me this season. You can't use the bullshit excuse that we missed training camp. Well, it's February at this point. You can't always use that as an excuse. So, Swayman sucks. He sucks. and you're hoping he bounce backs next year, but definitely not promising. And as for the rest of the roster, there's no offensive punch outside of Pasternak and Geeky. And Geeky, a lot of that is due to Pasta. Even though Geeky has developed and done some good things, that's great. But show me else in that lineup that's really producing at a high clip. It's just there's nobody there. So while Pasta's played phenomenal, and even though I see some stupid comments and posts like, we need to trade Pasternak. Well, it's not Pasta's fault. That lines 2, 3, and 4 just are not producing. You can't blame this team's success or lack of success, I should say, their failure on Pasternak. I think that was some stupid post I've seen people continually saying, oh, trade Pasta. If you trade Pasternak, this is just like the 1990-2000 Jason Allison Boston Bruins, where PJ Axelson's on there, and you get no scoring. Is that what you want? At least with Pasternak, it gives you something to be excited for. Like, Christ, is he the perfect player? No. But there is no perfect player. Do the Bruins have a lot of space? Well, right now, due to Hampus being out, they could make an addition, but the problem is with the Bruins is, like, who are you giving up to get anybody of note? I mean, and as for the future, they could make some moves. The cap's going to go up. There could be some certain moves to happen that, sure, yeah, why not? You get another player or two, but for me, this is just a failure of the development system, the guys in the system, and I don't know what it is. Sorry for being dark again, just walking. And there's no, like, this is crazy, no lights out here right now. But, Merkulov, he's been producing in the AHL. Give the guy a shot. You just waived Wahlstrom. You got rid of him. Might as well just see what you got there. Like with Merkulov, Fabian Lysell. If you're going to shot Fabian Lysell, if you don't like him, what would you do? You just maybe try to get him some games where you can try to get, like, maybe he looks decent. And, as for Rantanen with the Bruins, who can the Bruins give up to the Carolina Hurricanes and make them better? That's a better option. Really. I know Rantanen's struggling, and I'm actually going to be making a video on that. I know Rantanen's struggling, but I think the talent's there. If Rantanen came to Boston, he'd be the second best player. But I don't think the Bruins have the horses to pull anything. Unless they dealt, I don't know who they would even deal for a guy like that. Maybe you deal one of our defensemen. But Rantanen's also, I forget if he's an RFA or UFA. I think he's a UFA at the end of the season. So it's like, why would he come back to Boston when currently this team isn't in a win now mode? That's why there's been a lot of conversation about Rantanen joining back with the Avalanche. And I will say this, if he goes back to the Avalanche, regardless of how unsuccessful it's been for Rantanen in Carolina, it's been proven to work in Colorado, and maybe this is a little bit of humble pie where it takes a little bit less money to go back to Colorado. Who knows? And as for Wahlstrom, sure. It wasn't it was a waiver wire pickup. I wasn't mad at Sweeney trying it. It's a cheap, $1.1 million contract. He's drafted high. Yeah, take a flyer on him, but it just didn't work out. He just didn't work out, and that's fine. That happens with certain waiver wire pickups. They're waived for a reason. Wahlstrom was waived because he wasn't doing anything with the Islanders. Maybe you thought he'd bring him here, and you get a little bit more. Maybe get that potential, a homecoming where he kind of flourishes, maybe becomes at least an adequate third liner. But unfortunately, that just really wasn't the case. Didn't really turn out that way, which is sad. It's just sad. I feel bad for Wahlstrom, the kid. He grew up in Maine as a fan, and he had that huge viral moment of him doing that spinorama, insane deke at the Garden, and that was at a shootout event they had. I think it was the Portland Pirates. So yeah, I mean the guy was absolutely. I think there was a cool moment in that regard, but he just didn't pan out. And for me, as a Bruins fan, I want them to sell. I want them to sell, sell, sell. Understand that they're in no situation to win right now, and there's no shame in that. There is no shame in that. It's understanding what you have in front of you, your roster. Marchand's not Marchand anymore. Pastrnak, while in his prime, doesn't really have anyone crazy around him. You know, the Bruins need to figure out a way to get more scoring depth, and it just can't be relying on Pastrnak to have a point on every single one of their goals. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why this team has struggled so badly. Because when Pasta has an off night, who's there to kind of pick up the slack? There is nobody. And there's, I think if I'm the Bruins, it's kind of a balance. Like the Providence Bruins are having a good season. It's a balance of like, what do you want to do? Do you want to affect their AHL season? Maybe help some development of those guys down there. But for me, I'm looking at Merkulov, I'm looking at Lysell, and I'm like, hey, listen, the guys in the big club couldn't do it. Maybe it's time, it's your time to shine here. And I don't think there should be a short leash. I think last time Merkulov was up, I thought he played well enough. The Bruins aren't going to be a great team this year. Give these younger guys a longer leash and then deal some of the fat, like trim the fat off. Deal a guy like Trent Frederick. If you can. Try to retain Geeky because it looks like he's found a nice little home here in Boston. But trade Frederick. Trade all the potential UFAs. I would honestly say this. I think Michael DiPietro's been fantastic for the AHL for the Providence Bruins. Trade Corpusello if he has some value. Trade him for something. And, elevate from within. Maybe somebody that could maybe push Swayman. I don't know. Christopher says, worst part is they definitely won't sell. Management definitely still thinks they have a good chance of making playoffs. DC says the East is so tight. Boston's only out a few points. Tough spot to be in for sure. So while you both are right, I don't think Sweeney's smart enough to sell right now because I think he wants this. Everybody wants to make the playoffs because they feel like once they get in, you never know. There's a good chance that maybe Swayman gets hot, goalie gets hot, and you can go on a run. But I would argue at the same token, it's just not. This team's just not great. No, I appreciate you popping in, DC. This is just an impromptu stream while I'm walking. So, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm kind of at the point where I'd like to see some type of move happen where they, whether they trade somebody or something, like there's got to be some shakeup. It's proven that the players in the room right now, it's not working. While some of them have modified no movement clauses, no trade clauses, it differs from player to player, but you're just not getting enough offense right now, and you're getting opportunities, but you don't have a goal scorer outside of Pastrnak really. I mean, Yuki's kind of like benefited from playing with Pastrnak. Do I think Geeky alone himself is like a 25, 30 plus goal scorer? No. And that's what I say. The problem is that I don't think he is smart enough, and that's the problem. I think he's going to kind of hold on to that fringe idea that we're a competing team, we're a contender, like we're going to do something really good once we get in there. It's like it's not going to happen. With Lindholm now confirmed out, I mean, Yeah, Charlie McAvoy comes back. Maybe that's something, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm actually gonna make a quick pit stop here, like convenience store. So give me a pause here for a few minutes, and I'll get back to you. I'll probably put this on mute for a second, and I'll read your comments in a second. Sorry about that, guys. Just didn't want to be rude and film inside the store. Didn't want to be that guy. Um, so let me read. I think that the Rags in Columbus are too hot for the Bruins to catch up, unfortunately. I agree, Chris. Sweeney's in front, and if the team doesn't at least show up in the third, the culture is completely dead. Wouldn't be surprised if Paz asked for a trade. DC says, I got to get your monster drinks for the shift. I drink way too many. Yeah, actually kind of gotta get I had to get a few drinks. I've dropped like 10 pounds this past month. I've been walking a lot. But I needed like a shot of caffeine. So I gotta head out here tonight in probably a few hours. Get started, but hockey guy pointed out that it's super likely any team in the Metro to sell given how close the division is. And unfortunately, I think he's right. Christopher says every owner and GM will be justified given how close the division is. And while you're not, you're completely right in that regard. Every owner and every team is going to feel like, oh, we're still in it. We're only a few points back. I think for me, if I'm in hockey management, I kind of look at the team like as you should take a step back and realize like, okay, like let me really look at this Bruins team and do they kind of line up against these teams? Like, are the Ottawa Sounders a better team than the Bruins? Yes. Are the Rangers a better team than the Bruins? Yes. Is the Columbus Blue Jackets a better team than the Bruins? Yes. And while you could maybe have push or a judge match like, oh, are they better than the Flyers? Yeah, I mean, I think the Bruins could be better than the Flyers. I just think overall when I'm looking at this team, I look at the top three teams in the Atlantic. They're nowhere close. When I look at the teams in the wild card, I would say there's probably about 4 teams better than them. And honestly, with how they've been playing recently, probably more than that. If I'm judging this team and understanding, like, we're most likely not going to get the playoffs, why not trade some assets while you possibly can? And, even if it's for nothing crazy, right? Maybe it's nothing crazy. I mean, Sweeney had an interesting talking point about, current UFAs and how they're not going to really talk any further and that the agents will have to come to him. It's something of that nature. To me, when I'm looking at this team, I deal most of those guys. Yeah, you still have to fill the NHL roster, right? I'm not saying gut everybody, right? But at the same token, looking at this team as she lays, I don't know. I don't see the point. I think that overall, this team is lacking pretty much everywhere on the roster. And it's time to just bite the bullet, accept that they're going to have to go through a rebuild. And it is what it is. Every team has to go through it. The Bruins were blessed with so many years of excellent play. They kind of staved off of certain years like, oh, is this the year going to fall back down to earth? And for the last couple of years, I mean, this was the conversation. Like, this team could kind of fall off, and then they surprise you and they play really well. The signs were there. The indications were there that the Bruins' luck in this regard was going to give. And I think it's just that time right now. I think it's okay to say that. Even if they somehow win tonight against the Islanders and they come back and win, I'm not very confident with this team. I'm not confident in any of the goaltending. I'm not confident in the defense. And outside of Pasternak and Geeky and, Zaka's done admirable enough, I guess. I mean, I just don't see much there, if that makes sense. I don't see much there. Chris says, you're right, but I don't know if Sweeney is ready to admit the same thing. Well, listen, if Sweeney doesn't realize that this roster currently, as is not good enough, he's not doing his job as a general manager. There's no way you look at this team and you're like, oh, this is a great NHL team. And that's the one thing I've seen by pundits. Oh my God, like they're so much better than their record. Really, it's not. It's not that this record and how they're playing is this team. Whether people want to accept that or not. Because people look at it like, oh, well, Charlie Coyle had that one really good year. I'm like, yes, one good year out of tons of years of just mediocrity. And listen, fine third line player. But if Charlie Coyle, you're depending on him for any offense, your team's not in a great situation. It's just not. Trent Frederick, he had that one good year. And this year, in a contract year, he has been awful. He has been basura, trash, garbage. He's been awful. Right? I mean, who, and I'm just going to be honest with you. Looking at that deal for Olmark where they traded the first round pick that became Dean Letourneau for BC, he's a freshman. I'll give it time. I'm not going to try to go too quick on him, but you got Kostelek and, it's like, Kostelik's a nice fourth liner, but you got that for Olmark and a late first round pick, who I hate to say that guy could be a boom or bust guy. He put up some really good stats. But in BC, it's been underwhelming. So you didn't manage your assets properly. You probably would have been better off just keeping Olmark. And I don't know what you do with Sway, but for me, it just, I don't know. You mismanaged your assets for the goaltender. I feel like, goaltenders are never going to get a massive haul just because the nature of the position is devalued in a lot of regard. At the same point, I feel like there could have been more there. You could have got at least a top 6 player in a deal to fill some needs that the Bruins desperately needed. Right? Like a guy to me, and I'm not saying you would trade Olmark to San Jose. They would, though, especially when they got Askarov. But, like a guy at the deadline that's available, Michael Granlund, like there was players available I feel like the Bruins could have inquired on that could have improved this top 6 just drastically, and they didn't do it. So now you're kind of playing with third liners. I mean, going up and down, Pavel Zacha probably on most teams, second liner. Morgan Geekie, outside this year, kind of a third line guy, but he's, second line type production, I guess, this year, right? He woke up after a slow start. Brad Marchand, as much as this pains me to say it, because I love Brad Marchand, he's a third line guy at this point in his career. You shouldn't have to rely on him to be a heavy point producer, because after that many surgeries, he's not going to be the same player, and that's fine. But Brad Marchand, third line player. Charlie Coyle, third line player. I mean, there's nobody on this roster that really stands out to me offensively. None. And again, when you're everyone wants to talk about the depth of the Bruins, and that's all well and good, but when your depth is all third liners, this is the product you get. You're going to have some games where you win. You're going to have some games where the moment looks too big for them, which I felt like happened against Toronto. The Bruins losing that game was embarrassing. You're up 3-0, then it's 3-1. You let them tie it up. You let them take a lead, and you get a goal, and then you go to overtime. I'm sorry, no. You take a lead again after it's tied 3-3, 4-3, and then with seconds left, was it Holmberg? He scores. It's just another late season choke of this current iteration of the Bruins. And that should be expected when you're playing a bunch of third liners. The Bruins don't have top end talent. That whole narrative of the Bruins having so much depth is so wildly overstated. They don't. They really don't. Now, the Bruins been hurt by Hampus being out. Sure. Charlie McAvoy being dinged up. Sure. But at the same point, Zadorov, if you follow his career, is primarily a third pairing guy. and you overpay for him. Obviously, it's free agency. And Lindholm, who I honestly, he's so forgettable. I even forgot to mention him in this lineup. He has been so piss poor. It's been one of the worst signings. And listen, I was excited that they got another center that could potentially be a top 6 guy. I didn't think Elias Lindholm was a number 1 elite C, but I think he would have been serviceable enough. But he hasn't given you enough. Yes, defensively, there's some points, but it's crazy. Bombclass says, "Bro, why are you so negative? Like, come on, bros, we're 2 points out. Stop being so negative, bro." I'm not trying to be super negative. I'm just kind of seeing it how I see it. It's just until I see some guys kind of flip the switch, I've been wildly unimpressed with the team. It's not that I hate the Bruins. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope this rant I'm going on is proven completely incorrect. They go on a tear, but the team just on paper and on the ice, you're not seeing a good enough quality. I mean, listen, if I was a hater, you know how easy that'd be to get views? Super easy. Because the hating channels and then make a Maple Leafs channel, you'll blow, right? So I'm not trying to come off as a hater. I'm just giving you my just genuine evaluation and how I view the team. Because I think Elias Lindholm, for example, I think there's more there. The style-wise, it doesn't fit with the guys that are currently on the roster. So I'll give Lindholm a pass for this year. But they're going to have to give him more talent around him. And, I'm looking around the league, and with this team, like, let's say the Bruins make the playoffs, it's going to be very difficult for them to get out of the first round. And, you can call that being negative. You can call that being a hater. I'm just being blunt. I don't see it. I haven't seen it all season. I mean, Sweeney's even outright said the Lindholm has not produced what they were hoping he'd produce. And it affects the team. If Lindholm was scoring at a higher point per game clip and there was like more depth down the lineup, like you had some type of production in the top 6, I'd probably feel better. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not perfect. There's still a little bit of quality there, but I don't know. It's been a frustrating season to watch. It really has. If I don't know. I think it's in Sweeney's best interest just to sell, call it a day, try to get as many assets as you possibly can. Maybe you can get some like 3rd, 4th round picks. I think you're just better off getting picks, or maybe even some prospects. I mean, what do you get for a guy like Trent Frederick? I don't know. Something. What do you get for a guy like Corpuscello? I don't know. Something. But I know Trevor Zegras has been rumored to be a target of the Bruins. And I mean, with Zegras, he's already having knee problems, but I mean, he's still relatively young. Maybe that's something the Bruins can explore, but I would rather them try to set themselves up for the future to succeed. Oh, okay, cool. I'm actually like 5 minutes away from the boat. So Pasta just scored. Again, Pasta heavily involved in pretty much all of this team scoring. I mean, hold on, let me take a quick gander. I don't know if this will freeze it might. All right, well. I think it did freeze it for a second. So yep, Pastrnak gets his 31st of the season. I'll be home or not home, but I'll be back on the boat in a few minutes. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully the Bruins come back and win this game, but I don't really see much hope for the future. For this season, I should say. So I don't know. I mean, am I tripping? What do you guys think? Do you think that this current team is good enough to do any damage in the playoffs, even if they make no additions? I don't know. I don't see it. Maybe if Pastrnak just keeps tearing it up like he has been. I mean, 31 goals. He'll probably get another 40-goal season. He's been having some amazing playmaking assists. Like Pastrnak has. Pastrnak is not the reason for this team's struggle. I'll say that for sure. Well, somebody oh, trade Pasta. That's stupid. You don't trade a superstar you have locked up, especially one as good as Pastrnak can be. But I'm gonna get here. Man, it's fucking cold. I'm gonna get back to the boat. I might have a video up on his channel about this game. Probably not. I gotta start covering other shit too. But I don't know. I might make a video about the Bruins needing to sell, just because it's really been on my mind. But I appreciate everybody that kind of popped through, took a little gander. I'll try to do these occasionally when I'm walking about, just because it's fun to do so. But I'm out of here, boys.